Scott Grove joins the show this week. Scott is a managing partner of Capstone Partners Financial and Insurance Service LLC. He spends his days consulting on advanced planning matters nationwide while helping to lead the premier independent corporate trustee advisory practice in the life insurance industry. Scott is here to share his insights about our industry, both at the present and in the future. I'm Paul Blanco, and this is Small Steps, Big Wins. Scott Grove, thank you for being on Small Steps, Big Wins. I know it was hard to nail each other down and get a date on the calendar, but I'm really glad to have you here. And through the years, just getting to know you and watching what you've done and the professionalism you've brought to this industry has just been a pleasure. So I'm really glad to have you on the show today.
Yeah, Paul, I'm excited we were able to make this work out. And, I appreciate the words and, I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the last few years. And so hopefully we have a productive chat today, bring a little value add to your ever-growing popular podcast. And I'll let you take it away from there.
Yeah. So, let's start from the beginning though. How did you actually get into the industry?
Yeah, I think I got in this industry, Paul, like, or at least, the people that I've talked to in my 29 years in financial services, the insurance business, kind of by accident. In school, my education background's in finance and economics. I had interned at, traditional banks and wirehouses, and I thought that was the path that I was going. And I had grown very close to my finance professor, who was the chair of the department. As I was getting ready to graduate, Dr. Manzi comes to me and says, "Hey, listen, like I know you already have a path with a job or make an offer, but I've got this guy in town who's the president of a life insurance company. And, I wasn't going to invite you because I knew you were going to go down this other path, but you may want to, come and have dinner. And, I'm inviting some of your fellow colleagues and, listen to hear what he says and check it out." So I think he had an agenda because he sat me right next to this guy. And I kid you not, he was the most charismatic guy I had ever met or heard in my life.
Wow.
And when he's describing this position that his company has, this life sales rep, I had no idea what the hell he was talking about, but I wasn't even done with my Caesar salad before I said, "Hey, I'd like to come work for you." So that is how I got started in the insurance business.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think, listen, when I think of, and I know we'll dig into that, but that part of the business has definitely changed today as we've got into this more balanced approach and this hybrid model. And I think it's, the one thing that was really exciting for me when we first met was you took that from that meeting. And then as you built your path in this business, you always had that passion for protection and helping clients with their needs. And I think what you did was really awesome. I love my favorite business book is Good to Great. And there's
love it. Yeah.
Great book, really easy concepts. And the hedgehog theory is do what you do really well and just keep doing it. So you found your path to build this advanced planning team that you really went out and helped other people in this business that were lacking that protection side of the business. So why don't you, how did you figure that out? And you go from this dinner, then you get in the business, and then you form this niche that you did for a very long time in your career.
Yeah, I thanks for the question. I think I was very fortunate that this first job that I had out of school, and ended up being there 5 years, before I transitioned inside the Mass Mutual platform and my partnership, long successful partnership with Andrew Moore. But they took me, I was a 22-year-old kid, and I ended up, leaving Cleveland, Ohio, going to Atlanta. I wanted to get out of the cold, wanted to go somewhere warmer client, ended up in Atlanta. And so they dropped you into these property and casualty agencies and said, "Hey, I got a guy, his name's Scott Grove. He's going to be your life insurance expert. And oh, by the way, if you want these coveted property and casualty contracts, you got to write some life insurance." So it was a really good training ground for me because I was their insurance, their financial services department selling life insurance, variable annuities. And I was 22, probably looked like I was 16 at the time, right? But it forced me to be a sponge, to continue to educate yourself. And, to this day, that training ground was invaluable because I was getting at-bats of point of sale assistance with people, much older than me, successful, closely held business owners. And I had to go research and find out what I was solving for their problems. And that was invaluable training. So that was kind of the impetus of, as I transitioned over into this system, kind of how I leveraged the brokerage arena of which I focused on and kind of just built out this national kind of subject matter expert collaboration, joint work kind of platform.
Well, it's amazing though that, and I think obviously the hardest thing for advisors in this business is getting in front of people. And they had a concept, this guy that you had this dinner with, and that thank God your professor put you there, right? Because 29 years later,
no doubt,
look where you are. But so you go in there now and you have this conveyor belt of you're really wholesaling to the advisors to bring you in on their clients. And now you're in there and you're starting to do all this protection stuff. So you make this move and you go to work with Andrew Moore, who's one of the top GAs in the industry. You didn't really go after career advisors that were in your own shop. You started to go out and go after people from different parts of the industry. Did you have a niche, or was it just anyone in the business? Or
how that progressed, Paul, is to Andrew's credit, when I came over, he had a vision around, building out this department and having a lens in the marketplace of, we would view the term wholesale as a nasty word. Like, don't call me a wholesaler, right? I'm going to bring value add. So we kind of beta tested it actually with inside of the firm, going back to our Atlanta days, where we connected and started with inside of our career agents, right? That were maybe less sophisticated, because that advanced life insurance market is a small condensed market. The insurance business is a much more, volume related business. So it was like, what is the value add that we can bring to grow like a dedicated focal point of an audience, right? You have a Mass Mutual contract. Let's try and perform for the home team on every opportunity if it makes sense for the client. And obviously it makes sense for you professionally. And then from there, as we had success and build confidence, I went to the market and said, hey, we have this skill set, all these years back, starting at 24 years ago, this concept called premium financing, which was a little newer to the marketplace. And then I just became a sponge in education, as I speak to our training class internally today, I talk about when I was growing up in this business, I carried a tax fax in my briefcase and I read it all the time, right? So, as you're talking to a client or a prospect, like, you need to be playing in your head, what's your value add? Like, what is your distinguishing value add to the next guy or gal that's going to have an opportunity to make this person a client? And it's knowledge and it's credibility, right? Until you get them to say yes. And then you've got to hold on to that trust and what have you. And so that's the model that we built. And so I was successful to do that in the brokerage marketplace, and would tell a story to say, hey, Mr. Blanco, you're doing, X amount of dollars a year. And if I could show you a way to double that and you're giving me half of the revenue, would you sign up for that? Well, everybody's going to say yes, right? And so then it was up to me to, let's talk about your book of business, your clients. Let me talk about, clients that are worth X amount of dollars or this amount of money of income. No different than what our career agents, are kind of mining. But, I just brought that to the brokerage community, to the Capstone, family. And then, success breeds success, as with the monumental success you've had in this business. And then, I've been fortunate enough to, parlay that with inside the Mass Mutual system and build some trusting relationships over the years around that.
Now, that's amazing, Scott. Now, was there a niche that you had, like you got dropped into the P&C world, but did you go after, investment advisors because you knew that they didn't have a lot of that protection, ability, or maybe they did and frayed away from that? Or Was it, other people in the PNC world, or who was it that you really targeted? And did you have a niche, or was it just, you
Yeah, it was all of them. And if I were to define each scenario, like, the true investment folks, right? So, I mean, you go back all these years, I'm now 24 years in Mass, but you go back early on, Mass Mutual was 100% protection focused,
Yep.
right? And so, I still talk today about, my passion with great conviction around the duality of life insurance. Right? People think about life insurance as death benefit protection, family protection, wealth transfer planning, buy, sell. But there's this whole nother component, this non-correlated asset. So I would tell a story to those investment advisors, right? Like if I'm going to talk to you about taking money out of AUM that you produce revenue on, like what's the value add in doing that? And become an educator on, that as a true asset class. And, and I would go in, in regards to, not to get too off topic or too deep, but this modern portfolio theory with Harry Markowitz, right? Like if you have cash value participating life insurance in a portfolio, it's going to enhance your returns, right? And the guy won an award or two in regards to the modern portfolio theory, right? So I would preach that to those investment folks. And then it was a different story to the PNC folks, right? Like you have all of these closely held business owners, right? We're just focused on talking about buy-sell planning or taking care of their key guys and gals, right? Around deferred compensation plan. So it was a different story, a different solve, but the same power in the delivery as far as getting them thinking and wanting to get excited about, Scott, next time we meet, I'm going to have 5 prospects for us. Mm-hmm. And that, and I would customize the story to that particular focus on their profession and how we can drum up life insurance business.
Yeah, I think that's great, Scott. And as I'm listening, you got the front end there and you got this advanced planning and all the different concepts, and you're able to, work in many different markets, as you said. What happened from the minute the sale happened? Did you and your team take it from start to finish? Meaning, did now you take it through underwriting? And then what happens afterwards from a service perspective? Are you handling, are you truly outsourced life insurance or outsourced protection, advanced protection for advisors in the industry?
Yeah, if we in every scenario, and we ultimately developed a myriad of splits as we really grew our premium financing book over the years. But if we participated on the application, part of my value add is that we'll own from A to Z the underwriting, the point of sale work, the communication with the attorney, and the servicing of it. Lifetime deal. Like that was my value add, right? And then if we got into a premium financing scenario, and the part about that business is everybody thinks it's easy until they do a case, right? And then year one's really easy until you get to year 2. And then year 2 is really easy in a low interest rate environment until you get to the last 2 years, right? And so we had a myriad of grids, for lack of a better reference, in regards to that book of business. But yeah, I think always overcompensate that joint work partner where, like, let's not trip over pennies when there's dollars in front of us. And, and we've tried to, as I professionally transition, try to implore upon our advisors that, don't count the dollars in splits on a case that you don't have. Like, what is that other person going to bring to the table? A skill set that maybe you don't have. And that's kind of a little niche that I think I found in the risk protection and, the passion and time I put into being an educator for myself and into the marketplace.
That's amazing. So when I think about the business today, and like yourself, grew up on the protection side, moved into the wealth management pretty early on, saw where the puck was going. Now in the business being more of a hybrid, I'm seeing way more advisors, and I'm using this terminology as they've made a business decision not to sell the protection products. And they need professionals like yourself to go in there. Are you starting to see more of that in the marketplace? And what do you think the future of, outsourced protection? And do you think there's going to be a lot of people that just stay in that silo? Or do you think it's just, everyone's trying to move to the wealth management space?
Yeah, I think, Paul, we've actually had a successful last, 12, 18 months in recruiting over AUM focused folks from the traditional wirehouses, right? Where these guys used to refer me business to do the risk protection, no strings attached, right? Now, we're fortunate with Mass's focus here that, we can look them in the eye and say, hey, you're not giving up anything. But let me tell you why we're a unique boutique wealth advisory firm, because there's this whole other thing around planning and risk protection that you may talk about or your back office talks about, but you're not sincere to your clients, right? So, with a little offense, you could play defense. So I think that there always will be that segment in those more traditional wirehouses where they're never going to focus on it. I think for folks like you and I and our colleagues relative to growing a well-diversified, advisor core, that like the story that we can tell around our skill set in risk protection. Oh, by the way, we can do all of this in the asset management side. And don't tell me that you're doing planning for the client. Are you charging them a fee? Right? To me, that's a distinguishing factor, right? Are you charging them a fee? Right? And I think that's a great value add that in the marketplace to those folks that, 3-4 years ago, talked to a Merrill or a Morgan Stanley guy, Mass Mutual broker dealer, like, huh? And there's a great story there. Now we just got 3 guys insurance. They've been in financial service 20 years. We just got them insurance licenses in the last 2 months.
Amazing.
How great is that? Like backwards, right?
It's great though. But now they have those relationships that they can bring a specialist in and they can outsource that and continue to grow and diversify their business and, really do that. And I have this feeling, Scott, when you're doing high-end planning like that, one of the things advisors will say all the time is, well, I have these great relationships. I'm managing this bucket of money for these clients and I don't want to upset that. And based on what you're telling me and all the stories I've heard from you just in sidebars is you're not upsetting it, but you're truly enhancing it if it's done professionally and you're going in there and making a bigger impact. How's that? You probably have tons of stories like that over the 24 years that you've been doing that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt it's about like everybody's cognizant of not wanting to damage a relationship, bringing in somebody that you referred and they have a negative experience. So, So part of it is that trust factor. So if I go back to my Atlanta days and, I was doing business with, B of A, pre-Merrill and Wells Fargo, it took me a long time for those people to get comfortable because of all those reasons, right? And then you start with a smaller case and you have a success story and an ease of doing business. And then they get a check on the insurance component and it's all upfront money, which could be meaningful to them, right? So it's just about, building trust, no different than, you have to build trust with the end user, the actual retail client. Same thing with joint work folks, right? And there's a lot of people in this industry, uber successful, where say whatever they want, like their client has been the advisor. Now, they may have hundreds or thousands of retail clients, but it really started where their market and their solicitation was that advisor for the collaboration and the joint work.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I know that as you continue to evolve your career, you've made a major transformation and transition, I should say, in your career right now, going on to be, a co-CEO of a firm. Why don't you talk about what you're doing today?
Yeah, it's very exciting. So Andrew retires March 1st. We've been gearing up for this for a few years now. So we're very excited and think we have, everything in place relative to that transition. And you're right. I have a co-partner, a co-CEO in Van Hess. And I think part of our value add and my comfort level is, I want to stay in my lane. We talk to our advisors and, however they want to form their practice. That's the beautiful thing about our business. You can customize it, right? But I want to stay in my lane. 29 years in the life insurance business. And I think I'm pretty well versed in the other side of the business. But Van grew up in the asset business, had a very successful GDC book that he sold. And we have complementary skill sets, right? My lane's risk protection, his lane's the GDC planning. It's a really dynamic communication and collaboration to a recruit. And, we're excited about the future. We've got big plans and looking to take the firm to a whole nother level on something that, obviously Andrew Moore was uber successful in his career as a managing partner. And, I've been fortunate enough to have a little impact on that over our 24 years together inside the Mass Mutual system. But we're open for business, Paul. We're ready to go.
I think it's really important. And I love the model because what you did is there's a lot of cloning going on in the industry where teams go together and you have someone like Van and there's 3 Vans on the same team. Not bad, but then they're missing the Scott Grove that does the protection. Now you've been fortunate to find some of those teams over your 24 years doing this and help them. But now you have a model internally where you both have 2 different disciplines and, as you said, complementary skills. And for all the people here, like, stop for a second. If you're teaming, listen carefully because it's really important. If you're not going to build it on your team, then partner up with someone to do that, either side. If you were on the protection side like Scott, then find a Van to work with. So I think that's really cool. So let's talk about that. You got this new role. You're always hunting. You're hunting differently, but how's the transition been mentally, and what's some of the challenges you're running into now?
Mentally, it's taken some adjusting, right? Because you are now having a lens of success, right? When you spend so many years that, the sale was the success, right? The sale is still the success, but, my transformation is being able to bring a value to an existing advisor or bringing over a recruit that, is outside of their comfort level. AUM guy or gal doing some risk protection and, first time really, digging into it and trusting in us and seeing those successes there. You still get the same kind of satisfaction of the wins, but it's definitely been a transition. And now, for whatever reason, been fortunate to have the propensity to drive opportunities inside the firm. And now it's marrying those opportunities with the skill set of an advisor, I think is going to be best for that opportunity, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And so it's exciting.
That mindset too.
Yeah, no doubt.
One of the things, Scott, when I look at people growing up in any entrepreneur business and being super successful, you always watch them when you're with them, some of their habits. And, you and I think we probably met our first time in working out in the gym. And
yeah, I think that's right.
I think it's really important because to run and build and to continue to grow, why don't you talk about like what your routine's been all these years in terms of what you do? Like, are you an early guy? How does it work out? How do you do it?
Yeah, so I'm really opening up here now, Paul, right? Like you're really getting to the weeds because some people, i.e. my wife and those that know me really well, might call it, obsessive compulsive disorders.
All right.
But I have been a routine guy. I still have to wake up. I don't sleep with my phone, unless my daughter's out late or around me. No phone next to me. It's downstairs. I still have the same alarm clock with the red numerical blinking that my mother gave to me, God rest her soul, when I left for college at 18. That's still by my bed. I get up at 4:51, every day. And I have my routine, morning cup of coffee on the way to work out, obviously being here on the West Coast. And we really do quite a bit of business nationally. So my engagement days, being quote unquote on or early, right? Post working out, I'm on the phone with the East Coast or the Central Coast. But I think routines are healthy in this business, right? Because it gets you into a flow. Like we talk and preach about, doing the activity. If you do this activity, right, within a very small standard deviation, we're going to promise you success. And I think it's all about getting into habits and routines, right? And so I'm a big believer in that. As I said, my wife and some others may say, a little extreme in some of it. But I think it's healthy relative to our business. As long as you can take some coaching along the way. and I probably haven't been the easiest person to coach. But as I matured, I've gotten better.
It's funny. I won't forget your time now because I get up just the opposite numbers, 4:15. So 1:5. And, I really think it's important because I saw you train really hard, but then you bring that attitude to the business. And I think a lot of people, I try to teach that you're a corporate athlete. And the only difference is, athletes get an off season. There really is no off season. So we have to treat it as seasons and what we're doing to continue to grow. So, last one for you though, like when you're really thinking about the mental part of the business, I'm sure that when you got dropped into that PNC agency, it wasn't always, got a sale. You were making me laugh when you said you had to go, like, got the client, now you got to go research it. I remember going through that myself, and it was pretty tough, and 3 meetings, and where I could have probably just brought someone along with me. But talk about that, how you've grown through that, because I'm sure it wasn't just like a straight up. And there was some times where you did that, or relationships that took a long time to cultivate. So how did you mentally get through all that?
Yeah. So I we tell everybody, and I'm sure, Paul, you have these same conversations as you're coaching and mentoring, recruiting. Listen, this is a tough business. It's mentally challenging. You get more no's, you get more negativity than yeses and positivity, right? And so you have to train yourself, right? And whether it's, you've heard this, hundreds of times. Okay, just give me the no, and then I'm closer to my next yes. If that works for you, great. But, I would suggest that you have to really build a thick skin in this business, and knowing, right, that it is a difficult business. You're going to get more no's than yes. It's going to take a while for you to get a little runway to build a successful practice, whatever that defined practice looks like. And it's invaluable that you have a support system in this business, right? Whether that's your spouse, your best friend, you have a mentor, you have another advisor, even if it's just to complain every now and then, right? Or celebrate the successes, or have a little bit of competition revolved around whatever it may be. Have your own language. Like we're big. I use acronyms and stuff internally on nice cases and stuff. And I have advisors call me all the time and saying, "Hey, thanks for the email. Like what does that mean?" Right? And so, like, you have to produce some fun in this business because it's tough. And, regardless of your year 1, 9, or 29, right? Like, if you're continuing to press and push yourself for, that next level, then, it just doesn't go away, right? You still are getting the no's. You still have challenges. You still have your own disappointments. You still have your own reflection, or, Monday morning quarterbacking on things, right? That's just not going to go away. But, if you could have that support system and a tough mental approach to it, right, how to process that and move on.
Love it. I love it. Well, listen, Scott, I think your passion for the protection, your next chapter of your career is going to be amazing. It's going to be fun to watch. I really believe that, the future is marrying the two things together, the investment and income and the protection. You're nailing it. You guys have an amazing track record, and I look forward to watch you grow. I love that.
Appreciate that, Paul.
No, my pleasure. And I love that, when I think of the small steps, big wins, you guys are doing that. You've been doing that your whole career. And I really appreciate having you on the show. And I know that I'm going to have you back one day to talk about what you've accomplished in the last couple of years. So
I appreciate it, Paul. I appreciate the invite. I'm glad we were able to make it work. I think the world of you and your professional successes. So I look forward to the next invite, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the gym, maybe in Palm Beach.
Yes, you will see me there for sure. All right, buddy. You make sure you share it on Apple and Spotify. Give us a good rating, and make sure you go back and take some notes and find someone like Scott if you're on the investment side, or if you're on the insurance side. Continue to grow yourself. So thanks again, everybody.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions their respective parent companies or affiliates or the companies with which the program participants are affiliated. Investments or strategies mentioned in this program may not be suitable for you, and you should make your own independent decision regarding them. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through qualified registered representatives of MML Investor Services, LLC. Member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484, telephone number 203-513-6000.